Welcome to the Build an Atom simulation. To start the simulation, you're going to need to scroll down just a little bit on your screen here until you find this button, Run in HTML5. Click on that. You should see a new window open up that looks like this. We're going to do the Build an Atom part of the simulation. Later on, if you finish fast, you could come back and try the game. Click on this one. Let's look at the screen here. At the bottom, you see our three subatomic particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. To build an atom, you put protons and neutrons in the nucleus to make this atom. Electrons go outside in their orbitals. Click on this plus sign right here to open this window that shows you the mass of the atom that you have built. Notice that you can only build atoms with up to 10 protons because there are only 10 protons here. That just lets you build the first two rows of the periodic table up to neon. These dotted lines are the electron shells that you learned about in the first video. This is the first electron shell. It will only hold 2 electrons. 1, 2. This is the second electron shell. It will hold 8 electrons. If we try to put more than 2 electrons in this first electron shell, they won't go in. Instead, they'll be forced out to the outer electron shell. Now let's look at our paper. Your assignment is to build these 6 elements: helium, lithium, boron, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, and then to draw what you built here on the bottom of your page. Let's do the first one together. We're going to make helium with a mass of 4, and it's going to be a neutral atom. Switch back to the Build an Atom simulation. The first thing we need to do is put in protons. But how many protons does helium have? Let's check our periodic table to find out. Here's our periodic table, and here is helium. You can see at the top of the element box, helium has 2 protons. So we're going to put 2 protons in our helium atom. Switch back to your Build an Atom simulation. You can pause this video if you need a minute. Helium has 2 protons. Let's put them in. 1, 2, and we can see as we added the protons, we changed elements here. With 1 proton, we had hydrogen. But when we put in the second proton, that turned into helium, which is what we wanted. The next thing we need to add is neutrons. But how many neutrons do we need to add? Let's go take a look at our paper again. It tells us on our paper that we are going to build a helium with a mass of 4. Switch back to your simulation. And right here, you can see the mass of the atom that you've already built. As we add neutrons, the atom gets heavier. Now it has a mass of 3 because there are 3 particles in the nucleus. Adding one more neutron will make it heavier. And now its mass is 4, which is what we wanted. Notice that it is still helium. Adding neutrons doesn't change the element. Only adding protons changes the element. The last thing we need to do is add the electrons. Remember from what we learned, in a neutral atom, the electrons and the protons will always match. In this case, we have 2 protons, so we're going to need to add 2 electrons. These electrons will be in the first electron shell because the first electron shell can hold 2 electrons. And we're finished. We've made helium with 2 protons, a mass of 4 because it has 4 particles in the nucleus, and it's neutral because the number of protons matches the number of electrons. The last part is to draw what we built on our paper. So, turn to your paper and let's draw it. This is helium, so it has 2 protons. It has a mass of 4, so it also needs to have 2 neutrons. That gives it a total of 4 particles in the nucleus. And finally, it's neutral, so it will need to have 2 electrons to match the 2 protons. This is what you should draw on your paper. Pause this video and draw it now. When you're done, you should have this on your paper. Let's move on to the next atom that you're going to build. This time you're going to make Li, lithium. It will have a mass of 7, and it will be neutral. Switch back to the Build an Atom app. This is what you built last time. To turn this into lithium, we're going to have to add protons. Let's take a look at our periodic table and see how many protons lithium should have. Here is lithium on the periodic table. You can see it has 3 protons. So, by adding 1 proton to helium, we can turn this into lithium. And there it is. It's now the next element. We got the number of protons right, but let's see how many neutrons we need to put in it. Look at your paper. This is telling me that we need to build an atom of lithium that has a mass of 7. Let's go back to the simulation and figure out how many neutrons we need to add to make that lithium atom weigh 7. Right now, this lithium atom has a mass of 5 because there are 5 particles in the nucleus. To make it have a mass of 7, we need to add 2 more neutrons. Now, it weighs 7 because there are a total of 7 particles in the nucleus. The last thing we need to do is add electrons. If I'm going too fast, you can pause this video and catch up. This has 3 protons, but only 2 electrons. To make it a neutral atom, the electrons and protons must match, so we have to add another electron. But notice, when I try to put that electron in the inner shell, it won't stay there. That's because the inner electron shell only holds 2 electrons. The third electron has to go in the next electron shell. And now we've completed our lithium atom. It's got 3 protons, so it's lithium. It's got 4 neutrons to make it weigh 7. And it's got 3 electrons to match its 3 protons. Switch over to your paper and draw that lithium atom that you just made here, just like we drew the helium atom. You can pause this video. Resume it when you're finished drawing. The last atom that I'm going to show you how to make is this one, boron. It will have a mass of 11. The rest you're going to make all on your own. Boron, B. Let's look it up on the periodic table to figure out how many protons it should have. When you get your periodic table, you'll see that boron should have 5 protons. Switch back to the Build an Atom simulation. And let's turn this into boron by adding protons. We have 3, so to be boron, we need to have 4. And now again, you have to figure out how many neutrons this needs to have. If you switch back to your paper, you can see that it needs to have a mass of 11. So you have to add enough neutrons to make it have a mass of 11. Pause this video now and add neutrons and electrons so that this boron atom has a mass of 11 and enough electrons to make it neutral. Click pause, finish building this atom. When you're done, click play again. Welcome back. If you did it right, your atom should look like this. 5 protons, 6 neutrons, and 5 electrons. That will make it boron with a mass of 11, and because the protons and electrons match, it is a neutral atom. Go back to your paper, draw this, then make the other 3 atoms. That's carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. When you're finished, you should have all of these drawn. You can always ask your teacher or your partner for help if you get stuck. Thanks for watching.